now. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this hosting for the Middleton ward. I'm Christine. I'm the chair of South Leeds Life, who this event is hosted by. Jeremy is the editor. Linda will be co-chairing this meeting with me, and we'll take it in turns to go through the questions. You can ask questions now by placing them in the chat. The chat button is at the bottom. If you just type in and press return, it'll come up at the side, and either myself or Linda will ask the questions. Candidates, we're going to rotate what order we ask the questions in, so you've all got fair time and fair chance to answer them. So are we ready? Okay.
Right, shall I kick off then?
Yes, Linda, you can start with the questions.
Well, I can if my thing hasn't jumped down there and I've got to. Being a local councillor, it requires a huge amount of time and energy and patience. How much time would you be able to give to being a representative, and how would you fit this round your normal things that you do every day? Yep. Sorry, Kaylee, do you want to kick off with that?
Yeah, do you want me to dive in and just answer the question straight up, or would you like me to introduce myself? I think I'll answer straight up. I put my all in. I'm not going to start this and be half committed. If I'm going to, if I want to be elected, I have to be fully 100% committed. I already commit a lot of my time already, and I absolutely love what I'm doing. I love what I do for the community. And every day I'm learning something new. And I just absolutely love what we're doing. I want to take care of my community. I want to take care of my neighbourhood. I want it to be somewhere that people can be proud of living. So yeah, I want to commit as much as I can. And I'm a mum of 3 children, and I'm already doing so much. So I really enjoy what I do. So I don't see why I'm going to stop. Yeah, that's right. My answer.
I don't want to be sexist, but ladies first. Would you like to go next, Sharon?
Thank you, Linda. I think it's a very good question, and there's a huge commitment, isn't there, in terms of attending council meetings and other work, perhaps some of the scrutiny boards and things that will fall out of that. I actually believe, and it is only my opinion, that it is a full-time job. So at the moment, I don't work in a paid capacity. I do some consultancy, which means I can do that whenever I want to do that. I do run a charity, and run with a small r, because obviously there's a board of trustees. And the work that charity does is totally aligned with community cohesion and doing things that we do in the community anyway. So to answer your question, I welcome being able to do it, and it wouldn't affect what I do on a day-to-day basis in any way at all.
Right, thank you. Wayne? Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm just learning how to unmute. Yeah, so I know it's probably a massive time commitment, and the reality is I don't know how much time commitment until it happens, if it happens. But I'm totally committed to it. I mean, I think I've proven that I've been able to hold down a full-time job and do everything I do in my spare time. Literally my whole life's committed to improving things and doing things. If and when I get elected, I will have that discussion with my employer about how I deal with that. Maybe, maybe I'll go part-time, maybe I scrap my job, I don't know. It'll all depend on how much time commitment the role does end up entailing. I'm not going to sit here and say I will definitely quit my job, because I do have 2 kids to feed, and it's likely we'll have to work part-time. But I feel I can do that because I've pretty much run plenty of organisations in my spare time as well as working full-time. So I don't see the time commitment being an issue.
Right, thanks, Wayne. Next question. If elected, would you put the needs and the well-being of the local people first, or would you, it says here, blindly follow your party manifesto, regardless of the specific requirements of your area. Can we do it, Sharon, first this time, please?
Yeah, I think, thank you, Linda. I think that's quite a subjective, loaded question, isn't it? Because as a councillor, you are elected to put the needs of the constituents first. However, there are some areas that are enshrined in law, and that's planning, for instance, where you have to abide by the law. So even if somebody wanted to erect, and I'm just creating a ridiculous example, perhaps, if somebody wanted to erect a 24-storey extension on their house, even if that was in their best interest, the law would dictate what we had to do. So I think the answer is yes and no. So yes, I would, but where there are certain things that we are duty bound by the law to abide by, then that's what we'd have to do. So I'm not going to sit here and say it would always be, because there's sometimes we have to abide by the law, and that's the way I would approach that.
Right, Wayne?
Yes is a simple answer. My party doesn't have party whips, so I don't have to vote in line with my party. I can do what's right for the local people. Granted, obviously there is some legalities if planning, for example. I do understand that. But I'd always be voting with my conscience. I wouldn't ever get told how to vote. Yeah, just that.
Right. Kaylee, could you go next, please?
Yeah, they can now. I'm muted. Yes and no. I echo Sharon a bit there, and Wayne. Yeah, you'll have to stick within rules and regulations, but myself being local, as a resident in this area, I feel a lot of things we are blindsided with, and a lot of things we don't get enough say in it. And so I think what I'm very passionate about is listening to people in this area, listening to residents, actually being one of them. I can speak on a personal basis as well as a candidate of the area, and I want to make things work for people and bring people together, make the community stronger. So I echo both of you there. I'd say yes and no. But I really do want to listen to the residents. I think that's very, very important.
Right, thanks, Kaylee. Next one, we have seen a lot of gypsy and traveller encampments in South Leeds over recent weeks, and we do every year, obviously. What long-term solution would you like to see put into force over that? Could we start with you, Wayne, please?
So I've actually done an article for South Leeds Life on this just over a year ago, actually, as it's something quite close to my heart, because as some of you all know, part of my family are from Romani community. So it's quite important to me that the Roma community can carry on and do, live their traditional life as best they can in a modern society. And I don't think there's any easy answer to this, but the answer I've kind of come up with in my head involves change at both national level and local level. And I suppose it would start at local level in the sense that I can see some kind of permit scheme going on where we work with the travelling community and we work with local residents to try and identify small stop-off points which are short-term, like a week or two. And the traveller community need to buy into a permit system so that they're still paying their way for the waste disposal, stuff like that. So it doesn't become a burden and cost as it currently is, I think, because we're constantly clearing up after many sites. And I think if we came up with a permanent permit system where travellers could come, pitch up for a week, go and move on to the next one and still live their life, that would be a positive for everybody. But I also recognise that it's easier said than done. There's some, like any community, there's good and bad. And those who are good will pay the permits and they will do it and they will use the sites, and those who are not will try and pitch on other bits of land not it basically. And I feel that's where national comes in. So I think we should maybe look at trespass becoming an illegal not civic matter, but a national legislation for that. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Kaylee, have you got views on this?
I have indeed. I think communication between councillors, residents and a travelling community is first and foremost most important. I think if they know, if they understand each other, it stops these barriers and boundaries that's between each of them. Personally for me, what I would, even as a candidate, what I would ask for is a bit like what Wayne said, is bond sites for an area that's set up for residency and parking of these communities as they are travelling, as a bond put on that site for toilets and things and for a clean up after, and then non-return that if they don't take care of that environment and where they are set up. I think that the only way boundaries and barriers can be broken down is if there's communication and understanding. I think sitting and table to table, face to face, obviously with the restrictions at the minute, and understanding each other is where bridges are going to be built, and then we can all sort of learn to live with each other, and that's my point on it.
Sharon, can I have your views, please?
Yeah, I think my answer kind of overarches both of them, but perhaps just with another consideration that we need to take into account. The government launched a huge consultation around introducing harsher laws against illegal encampments, and that came out in March 2021. So, interestingly, only 20%, 21% of people were in favour, whereas 93%, it's actually 93.7% of the police forces wanted the matter that it would become an illegality. They could be gypsies who set up illegal camps could be imprisoned and prosecuted and end up with a criminal record. I don't actually believe that's the answer, but the answer, I think, is about for finding almost permanent sites with a small p. Look at what was done at Cottingley many years ago, and it still is a really relevant site. But I appreciate that travellers, there's a bit of a clue in the name, isn't there, want to travel. So perhaps it's, as I say, permanent with a small p. But I think the clue here there in the consultation, it doesn't actually, if you read it, doesn't actually say how many people responded. So I agree with you, it's about talking to people. And in the 50 some years I've lived here, we've seen lots of encampments. There used to be lots on the field back in the day. And there's a real divide, isn't there, between the travelling community and people who just live here. And I don't think that's gone away. And that's partly from my time of the devastation that's left behind. So going to what you said, Wayne, and I would agree, there needs to be a concerted effort because it's a continual drain financially. So the government are looking at introducing these laws, which actually might outstrip any suggestions that we have. So I think there's a need to get engaged with that consultation, and then locally we will have a say in what happens.
Sorry, forgot to unmute myself.
I'm just thinking.
Right. What would you do for the people of the area to improve the mental health and to improve the mental health services, which have worsened dramatically due to the pandemic? Would you like to start off, Sharon, with this?
Yeah, certainly. I actually run a charity which whole focus is mental health and suicide prevention. So this is a subject that's incredibly dear to my heart. Pre-pandemic, we had huge issues. And obviously post-pandemic, they're even worse. I met with somebody today, a professional guy who I was the first person he'd met inside, and he was suffering from real anxiety and stress about going back to normal, whatever that means, life. Tomorrow, I think, because services have been cut year on year and will continue to be cut. Oh, sorry, let me turn that off. And will continue to be cut. I think there's a need to empower people to almost help themselves. And if you go back to it's an analogy I use all the time. It's give a man a fish, you'll feed him for a day, teach them to fish. And tomorrow, which is actually quite an important date for me, I'm going to be launching a suite of fully accredited qualifications that people can access for free, including the new Ofqual accredited mental health first aider qualification. That will be open to anybody, not just in the ward, anybody in Leeds who wants to come, have the training, and so that we can end up with people who do have the commensurate skills, awareness and knowledge that they can start to work with people in the community, whatever that community is for them. It could be work, it could be their sports club, it could be just their street, so that we can start to effect some change. And I think it's really important that it's accredited, because it's almost as dangerous to have people who don't have the qualifications and knowledge as it is to have people with nothing. Just this morning, I spoke with the RSPCA, who actually don't have any training. So we're going to launch a whole program for them. And the reason, once we start to get people with that awareness, well-being's another qualification, because you can't pour from an empty cup. And I'd like to set up hubs, obviously, here is important to me, where people can meet perhaps monthly, bi-monthly, once they've done the training. So we'll end up with a cohort of mental health or well-being community champions. And that's the way I think we can start. So people will only need to access the services when they get to an acute or a crisis stage. But hopefully, if we've got that training at the ground roots level, we can stop people getting to that crisis stage.
Thank you for that. Now, Wayne, could I have your views, please?
Yeah, I also work in mental health services, and I think it's very important. I think Sharon's knocked the nail on the head, really, is getting people trained to help people. And if you can do that volunteers, that's great. Fully qualified trained volunteers is the ideal. But we should look at maybe funding smaller organisations, what are about Andy's Man Club, for example, stuff like that. There's groups called Mint in Morley who are pretty successful. And they're men specific, but obviously there's no harm in doing female versions of those as well. I think Mint did do that with Wish in Tingley. So there's lots of good little organisations out there, and it's just about looking at what support the council can support them with. Be it, can we offer them a room for free, for example? So yeah, there's lots of stuff like that, and I'd like to ask Sharon if it's all right just to send me that information on the training, because I'd be really interested in what you're doing there. That'd be really good.
May I answer, Linda? Is that okay?
Yeah.
When I'll be posting it. It'll be open to everybody, and I want as many people as possible. I've got several venues in the ward in Middleton. I've already done several training. I've trained about 300 people in Middleton already, but there'll be several. I do want a commitment, because I've signed an SLA today with a major funder. So there'll be 5 or 6 fully accredited up to level 3. I'll help with functional skills if needed. And then if you complete everything, because I'm Ofqual approved to deliver the new qual, I will give people the mental health first aid, the new Ofqual ones, free of charge. It's 300 quid to buy it. So you'd be very welcome. And anybody else who wants to come along would also be very welcome. So yes, I will.
Thank you.
I think I might tag along on that one, if that's all right, Sharon.
More than any, I want to train everybody. So yeah, please.
Okay, can I answer that question? Have you finished, Wayne? Yeah. So a lot of this, what we just be talking about, is about adults' mental health during the pandemic, and I think it affected a lot of children as well.
Absolutely.
I'd like to point that one out. That I'd like, at the schools, there's a place to be. There's CAMS as well, but the waiting list for that is atrociously big. I'd like to get things going on in the community for children and adults to all attend and work together to build a more friendly neighbourhood. I think talking to people builds their relationships and sharing your problems as well with neighbours and friends and family. I think that's good too. And I want to make myself approachable. So I'll do this thing that Sharon's talking about, this training, so that I can be also up to that level, Sharon, so I can help people that need my help when they have mental health issues, or if they're just feeling low, they can approach me as well. Why not? If anybody's got any problems, please send me an inbox. That's what I'm here for. So I'd like to point out that community strength, working together is a good thing, and children did get affected an awful lot. And these small groups that I set up, or these like for example the club that Wayne was referring to, Andy's Man Club, Dazzle Dance is out there for children in my area, in our local area. These small groups, they could do with the extra funding and the extra support because they're bringing happiness to children, and they're like unsung heroes. They're not spoken about enough. And then little groups like the skate parks and things like that, they're getting children out, keeping them off the streets and keeping them happy and helping them socialise. So that's my theory on it.
Right. Next question is from someone else. Would you view the position, if you got it, solely as a matter of
sorry, excuse me. May I interrupt? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My apologies. That's my question, but it actually starts
do you want me to?
two sections higher. It starts with question to candidates, and then there's the three little sections to it.
Right.
Sorry to interrupt you.
The winner of the election will enter a council that administers a budget that has been slashed year on year by the central government over the last 10 years. How would you, as a councillor, work to address the cuts? And would you view your position solely as a matter of administrative competence, efficiency and caring for the community, or is there another dimension to it? Kaylee, do you want to kick off with this one, please?
Let me reread this because I can't hear you very well, Linda.
Yeah,
Do you want to come back to me? Let me read it.
Do you want me to read it? Can you hear me?
I'll let Christine take over.
Okay, so the winner of this election will enter a council that administers a budget that has been slashed year on year by the central government for the past 10 years. How would you as a councillor work to address those cuts? And then would you view your position solely as a matter of administrative competence, efficiency and caring for the community, or is there another dimension to it? So first question, how would you address the cuts?
I'd want to know where the cuts were going for and what bits it had been taken from, and see if it's losing strength in that area. That's what I'd want to know. And if it was, that's when I'd address it. If that place that they're taking a cut from there, that needs more attention, I'd be quite vocal about it. I'd make it very clear that this needs more attention than what it's given. And would your position solely as a matter of no? If I'm not happy with something, I'm very caring and I make it very clear. I've lived around here for a long time, and I know a lot of people around here, and I'd be very unhappy if certain things weren't being done that I think that needed to be done, which is why I'm wanting to be a candidate this year.
Thank you. Wayne, do you want to go next?
I think austerity can't continue, and I think that the council could look at where they can borrow more money. To be honest, because I think we can borrow at quite a low rate in a minute, so it's probably worth doing. And we could use budgets a bit cleverer in places. I'm not saying we'll save tons, but just I think we need to make people accountable for wastage. So we need to tighten up on waste. But we also, like, I'll give you an example of where I think budgets could be used a bit better. So the council have a sports development section, and they often do 6-week taster sessions. For example, if there's a shortage of women getting involved in sports, we'll do a women's session of rugby, for example. And they'll do that for 6 weeks, and often they do that on their own, and I like to see a bit more collaboration with local groups. So for example, linking that with a rugby club so it's more sustainable and it carries on, and then we don't have to do it again in another year because we still got women. So, you know, I just think little tweaks here and there might save a few more, and little bits of money add up. But yeah, mainly look at where we can borrow money from, and where we can invest money to gain money, I guess. Yeah, such as, like, you know, Roundy Park visitor centres and stuff like that. You know, like, try and focus on what we've got and improve it a little bit more so it attracts a few more visitors so we can earn more money from it as a city. That's kind of where I'd be focusing.
Okay, and would you see your job more than an administrator's job, Wayne?
Yeah, I would, because I think the role of a councillor is first and foremost improving communities that you're representing, and supporting those most vulnerable in society to get over whatever their issues are, and support them into the right advice, I suppose, and right support for them. So as someone who I've worked for housing charities, I've worked in charities for 15 years. At Leeds, I know all the agencies in the area really well. So it's not just a case of administration. It might be. I think it'll probably be more looking where referral routes are and what support's out there. And obviously, as a councillor, making sure that those really good organisations in Leeds, which we have plenty of, are funded and supported. Yeah, so that's kind of where I'd go with it. Yeah.
Thank you, Sharon.
I've nearly forgot the start of the question now.
Okay. How would you deal with budget cuts that have hit the council over the past 10 years? How would you deal with that? And then, do you see your role as a councillor as more than administrative and, let me get the word in. Yeah, so first of all, do the budget cuts. How are you going to handle the budget cuts?
Okay, well, just to quantify what those budget cuts are, Leeds City Council have lost approximately £2 billion over the last 10 years. So since 2010, that's a huge amount of money. I mean, I'm saying 2 billion, I can't even comprehend how much money that is. Now, the biggest outlay is social care. So obviously, it's one of the reasons why the council tax rises are as they are, because it's imperative. My belief is that we continue to fund adult social care and social care across the board. So that's singularly the biggest output. Now, councils are legally obliged and can be prosecuted if they don't set fully balanced budgets. So to some respect, the budgets, whilst they're debated, they have to fit within the legal criteria and be legally balanced. So that's how it is. So what we need to do is lobby and push national government for funding, extra funding for social care and adult social care. We all know about the NHS cuts. They have slashed funding for old people's homes, old people's services, and all the social care, and it's become more of a responsibility for local authorities, which has had a further impact on our budgets. So that's a problem that's not going to go away. So how would we work within those budgets? Now, in reality, as a councillor, particularly as a new councillor, so you're not on any of the executive boards, you will have to work with the budget you're given. That's the bottom line. And there's no point dressing that up and saying we can change the world, because we just won't be able to. We could debate, But I think borrowing's not an option because, as I say, they have to sit within that legal framework. Now, if you look back historically to what happened in Liverpool when they kind of went rogue and borrowed lots of money and did lots of things, that ended very badly. So we are where we are and we stuck with that budget. I think part of it is looking how, and if we've got a particular interest in the ward we're talking about, looking how we can do things within that ward to help ourselves. Just harking back to the mental health, that's one such example, isn't it? So we're not reliant totally on the services that are there. We're going to try and do some things internally with a small I, with it to ourselves. And there's other areas where we can do things. I totally agree. And I spent rugby's my passion. So I've been spending some time with Julia Lee, who was the first ever woman coach. And we're looking at some programs that we can do to attract more girls into the sport. And that will be free, but there will always be some cost because you always have to pay for a facility. And I think we need to have to work with people. And it's almost another educational program, isn't it? That we can't at this moment in time, until there's a change of government or there's a change of how government is funding local authorities, that we have to try and, I'm trying to dress this up, but I'm not going to break the total reliance that the local authority can provide absolutely everything for everybody. And the harsh reality is that just won't happen. So we have to look at alternative ways that we can perhaps be a little bit self-sufficient, where we can do things. Now, the second half of the question, so how would we deal with the budget, is the budget is what it is, and it's looking for areas where we can have alternative solutions where people can still benefit. The rest of it, no, I don't view it as an admin post at all, and I certainly wouldn't be interested in any role that was purely administrative at all. I see it as much more, and whilst as a councillor you're bound by codes of conduct and so on and so forth, I actually see it as a champion, and I think that's and certainly the prime role is as being an advocate. So you are actually the link between the constituents, the people, and the local authority. So advocacy is at the forefront of everything you do. So you have vulnerable people, you have all kinds of people that you will have to work with, and it's advocating for those. And I know I'm going on a little bit, but if I can just talk perhaps for a minute about the Pcsos. As part of the budget, we've had to get rid of 37 of them. The local, I mean Leeds Council. And nobody wants to see a cut in policing, given the other issues that I'm sure will pop up. But actually, that's match funding. And that's match funded between the local authority and the police commissioner. And not all local authorities even have Pcsos. Now, the police commission, they've had their funding absolutely slashed. So obviously, they can't do it. And from 2010, we paid 50% of their cost. And I know they were really reluctant, but sometimes it was a straight cut. So perhaps we look at alternative ways of policing, and that's about responsibility, neighbourhood watch schemes, enhanced schemes, and things like that, because at this moment in time, they can't just be replaced.
Thank you, Sharon. That was perfect. So I'm going to do a question now that was asked by Matt, but also asked by somebody else further up, and it's around fly tipping. So Matt's question reads, travelling out into the countryside, it is clear fly tipping is an issue. I have heard bad things from other Leeds residents about their areas, particularly also South Leeds. What will you do to sort out fly tipping? And we'll go to Kaylee first.
First and foremost, it doesn't help when you have to book a slot at a tip, does it? And it taking days and weeks for people that they feel like they've got no other option than to go and dump their rubbish somewhere else and make it somebody else's problem. What I do is I help on that one, I'd want to stop tip charges. I think that paying people to dispose of their waste just makes them want to go and dump it someone else, make it someone else's problem. I'm helping with Litter Free Leeds, and I've set up quite a few litter picking sessions. We did a massive clear up down at Hustings Cemetery. That was last year, that was before Christmas. And I think getting people on board, making it fun. I like to make it fun for my kids. My kids like to join in as well. I think that's reducing all these costs at the tip and the length of time to go and dispose of your waste at the tip, and actually checking people who are apparently waste removal services, making it clear to people what they need to be looking for these services, what their actual license looks like, and what their tipping waste certificate looks like, and if they really have got some right to be tipping it, or if they're just taking your cash to do that and saying that they are a waste removal service. I think it's very clear that we need to make this clear to everybody involved, people that are hiring these companies or the people that are using the tips and things, and they need to make access to things like that more easier for people. That's my bit about fly tipping.
Okay, thank you. We'll do Sharon and then Wayne. So Sharon, fly tipping.
Well, fly tipping's a huge problem, isn't it? And I think if I just go to the tip slots, obviously the obvious answer to that is it's because of COVID. They were introduced because of the COVID and the staffing issues that surround that, as most services in the country have been affected by the pandemic. Now, I don't actually know what is going to happen with that, but I know they've actually been very positively received. I booked a slot the other day online for 8:45 in the morning, which was brilliant, and I could just go and get rid of it. I do think there's a problem with people who don't drive, because if you're not mobile, then there is an issue with you going to a tip because it's geared up for people who drive. So I think that's something we perhaps need to look at, that needs to be addressed, because they're kind of forgotten. So perhaps there's an issue there. I agree with Kayleigh that there are some unscrupulous fly waste disposal people who perhaps there needs to be looked at in terms of licensing and scrutinizing. I also think that there's a thing about civic responsibility. And I take on board what you're saying about it's great to and I applaud people who do it. However, I think people need to take some responsibility about things. So picking up litter is to be applauded, but actually we need to look at the reasons that sit way beneath that about why people just feel a need to throw things out. And sometimes the fly tipping are from people outside the area, drive past, see a bit of grass, I'm going to dump it. So it's not all from within this area anyway. I think there's a myriad. I think paying to dispose, that's part of the cuts that we just talked about. And perhaps we can look at a cooperative where, one person might have a large vehicle or a van who can then help others, and shared costs and things like that. It's certainly something to look at in the community. But it's COVID and the restrictions that made that system be introduced. As it changes and as things get back to normal, I'm not privy to that information. So it may get back to normal, but maybe it won't. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend I know the answer to that. But I think it's really important to stress it wasn't just introduced on a whim. It is as a direct result of COVID and keeping people safe, staffing reductions. But I do think we need to stress, I've lived here a long time, all my life, and we never had the problem with rubbish like it is now. Never, ever, ever. And I've seen it's growing. I've seen the problem with rubbish and fly tipping growing year on year on year. So perhaps we need to explore a little deeper the reasons for that. And part of the reason is that there's more disposable waste in packaging, and we could get into a whole green argument about that. And I would agree with everything that's said around that. But I think we just need to look, why are people doing it? What are the real issues? It's too easy to say I can't go to TIP because I need an appointment. I do think, as I say, there's a bit of a gap if you don't drive, which needs to be addressed. And that's my answer. I think it's talking to people. Let's get down to the grass tacks. Let's look at the underlying causes. Why do people feel that their area is not important enough to them? And there's a whole different debate about social responsibility that would sit alongside that.
Thank you, Sharon. Wayne, fly tipping.
Yeah, where to start really? So I believe in a bit of a cross-party argument on this one, and working all together to combat it. But one of the SDP's key principles is community. Hence why you often see me out litter picking with the community and getting people involved in taking care and ownership of where we live. And because I feel that if we work as a community to keep tidying it up, and then that in turn puts pressure on people to feel guilty for dumping rubbish, but also to maybe get involved and cleaning area up a little bit. And I don't know if Edward's heard of the broken window theory, which is something I really believe in, where basically, you know, one of the points in that is if you break a window and you leave it, someone later on looks, oh, there's a broken window there. Oh, I might just smash it a bit more and no one will care. And then it kind of spirals out of control because then they break the next window and then things. And I think that's kind of where we're at now in Middleton and Belial. And I think that one of the reasons is bulky waste charges, because I think it probably costs us more to clear stuff up than it does just to take it in the recycle centres. I also think that booking a slot it can be really annoying, but I also see the value in it, especially for those that are more elderly and kind of got a bit more time and they need to, you know, and they want early morning slots and they want to get it done and make sure they can do it quickly. So I kind of could see a bit of a balance of stuff really. So whereas certain slots reserved for booking, and then at certain times it opens up just to turn up and put your stuff away. I don't know, maybe for example, trialing just one day a week where it's just slots only, and then the rest of the week people can come in. So then it's best of both worlds, I think, could work. But bulky wage charges, I think, might help reduce it a little bit. I'm not saying it'll stop it, because I know it won't, because you've always got people who just do whatever. And something I've worked with Kaylee on, actually, we've actually been talking for a while about creating a campaign. Kaylee mentioned it herself about what to look for when you're hiring somebody to clear your waste, because I don't think anyone really knows. Nobody knows what am I looking for, and we've had a long discussion about it and how we can get some flyers done and send them around houses showing people what they're looking for if they hire somebody. And I think that might help reduce as well. Again, I don't think anything's perfect and nothing else, fly tipping 100%, but it's about reducing it as much as possible. And then if we've got the staff not clearing fly tipping, then we've got them to do something else, like, I don't know, maybe clear the litter in the woods behind the Bodmins, what's probably about 20 years old. But also it's about working with schools and educating children and talking to children as well. Youth clubs, getting young people involved with actually cleaning up the community and like taking responsibility for where they live. I think that's really key. As someone who's a youth worker themselves, I did a lot of work around young people, and I found if young people are invested in it, they'll protect it. So funding for organisations to do more work around environmental stuff will be really important for young people. Try to think what else now. Yeah, but like say as well with Kaylee, I've worked with Litter Free Leeds, with like lots of litter picks, and I think they're really good to get young people involved with scouts groups, stuff like that, get them all involved, and then try and just, it's about ownership is kind of what I'm trying to get at, really. Ownership of your community. So.
Okay,
May I
perfect.
just may
Can I add
just
something else to that as well, please? I know
Yeah,
Sharon.
after you, Kayla.
Sorry, Sharon. I also helped set up a crack page with Ed. Sorry, that's my dog. I helped him set up a crack page, and it's conserving resources and associating people. I know Sharon's also done one, and that's, as Wayne was saying, taking ownership in your waste. It's adding onto Facebook things that you want to, like what you want rid of it, and there'll be somebody else that needs that. And instead of it, but you're booking a tip slot and jumping it, as some people might do, you find somebody else that needs that item and you put it on Facebook, and somebody says, oh, I need one of them, and they'll come and pick it up. Or we have also put together a team of volunteers that go out for us, collect this item and take it for us to the person or people that need it. I've took pride in doing that. That has reduced an awful lot of waste, and it's also reduced a lot of tip slots and a lot of dumping in my area. It's to reduce this amount of waste that is around the Middleton ward and further afield. We do all the South Leeds as well. I take pride in that one. That's hit it off, and that's been fantastic as that. Sorry guys, sorry Sharon.
I would agree, but if I could just clarify one point. The bulky waste charge was introduced, and as a result, a direct result of work from the South Leeds councillors, and including all the wards in that fee is waived for anybody who is claiming a recognised benefit.
Council
So
tax support.
if you look at the numbers of benefit recipients in South Leeds, we are way above the national average, and I used to manage Hunslet Job Centre. So we're above the national average, and that's increased because now we have people in work benefits. So that will count. So there's probably only people like us, me, who have to pay that charge. So there's a huge amount of people who are exempt from paying a bulky wage charge. And I just wanted to flag that up. Yeah. So the cost.
Most people, Sharon, don't know that is available to them.
Well, South Leeds Life did a huge thing on it.
Okay, ladies, sorry. Can we move on to the next one?
Sorry.
So, yeah, the information is there to be found. Maybe we need to put it out a bit better. Maybe that's the issue, accessibility to things. Thank you. Okay, this one is a short answer question, I feel like. And it's from Matt again. And then I'm going to roll back up to ADM's, Daniel's, and one that was sent in the same theme. So, this one, in light of central government tax cuts and council tax rises, in light of central government cuts and council tax rises, do you feel it's wise to spend 10 million on a music festival in the city centre 2023? We'll go with Kaylee first. Kaylee, you're on mute.
I think everybody needs something to look forward to. I think people need to look forward to celebrating Leeds, this music festival. Okay, so there's money being spent on it, but after everybody's had such a tough time with everything that's gone on with the pandemics and lockdowns, obviously within restrictions and things, hopefully things will be good by then. I think what people need something to look forward to. You need to celebrate it, and it's obviously going to highlight jobs as well. There'll be jobs available with this. It's not going to be like the issue that we had up at Hyde Park, all this rubbish left there and left to somebody else to pick it up after everybody was sat there and having the picnics and things. There'll be jobs there for people, paid jobs for them, that they'll go and clean it up after. That's bringing jobs as well. And I think the 12 million will be better spent on permanent projects, to be fair. Benefits a lot more people. It benefits the city by spending that money somewhere else. But I do think that people do need something to look forward to, and I wouldn't say no festival at all. I'd say yeah. I would, yeah.
Thank you, Kaylee. Sharon?
Yeah, whenever times are hard and budget cuts, any spend is obviously prone to criticism. I agree completely with you, Kaylee. There needs to be some positivity introduced, but I also think it's key to answer that question, and I'll do it really quickly, Christine, is to look at things in the round. So that investment, and if we look at other areas such as Hull, the investment they've made has been outweighed by the inward investment. So, as you say, job creation, spend, because actually people who come to things like that, they're all spending money. They'll be staying in hotels. They'll be doing things. So the inward investment and the boost to Leeds economy will be phenomenal. And there are some projections. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but they are on the internet. Anybody can look at what those projections are. And I will just add, some of it's match funding. So the businesses and the partners have actually put funding into that. It's not just all the council or the local authority spending money. There has been match funding, and they have done real projections. And if you look at a comparative city, Hull did something similar. The inward investment far outweighed. It was about 240%. Can't remember the figures. What came back.
Thank you, Wayne.
I think 10.88 million is too much out of coffers, and I think that whilst it will bring jobs, those jobs will be 0-hour contract jobs, which will be temporary, which will leave people on the dole again afterwards. So, because there'll be people like it'll be just short-term contracts what will be handed out, and I don't think that benefits anybody. And I think if it was going to bring as much money into the city, businesses in the city would want to fund it. But that's my short answer.
Thank you. Okay, this question is combined between Daniel, Paul, and ADM. So I'm going to try to fit all your points in one go. Can each of our candidates tell us what they do within the community, what groups they support, and what campaigns they have supported? Also, can you describe what activities you've been involved with or are currently involved with? And how has this helped support the community, including cohesion among different groups?
Wow.
And I will let Wayne go first on this one.
Right. Where to start? So for the last 18 years, I've run the local football club, which allowed local kids of all different backgrounds to merge together and become one, really, and get to know each other. And I think for those of you who lived in the area a long time, you'll know that Middleton and Belial's demographics have changed quite significantly, I'd suppose. It's a large Eastern European community now. Lots of families from an African background as well. And I'm quite proud of the fact that the last 18 years, I've always welcomed every single one of those into the football club and never turned a child away. And I also think that I've made a massive impact on including those people into the community and giving them community links. And those families have become friends and really allowed them to settle in. And I think sport's quite powerful in doing stuff like that. As well, so as well, like, not only have allowed the kids to come and the parents are volunteering at the football club. We've got various nationalities volunteering with us, and yeah, it's great. As well, like we've all worked together. We've signed up to the Kick It Out campaigns for quite a few years. In fact, we were the first club this year to sign up to the new Kick It Out campaign. From the Garforth Junior League. So we were first in Leeds to do that. And it's something that's quite close to my heart because my family are from all different backgrounds. I have Black Caribbean relatives, I have Pakistani relatives. I've got lots of different people married into my family who, so it's quite important to me that everyone's treated equally. And in terms of campaigns and groups I'm involved with, obviously I'm a board member here at South Leeds Life. I like to think I give a different perspective to a lot of people on the board, and I also God, I do loads. South Leeds committed the community litter picking group, which we've set up, which has allowed everybody to link up their community litter picks, which is come really well. So I've done that in conjunction with Ed Callell and Kaylee and lots of other people. And Middleton Community Group, I revived that a couple of years ago, and it's been a bit slow getting started, but we're starting to build it up now, and it's coming good. If it weren't for COVID, we'd have had a much better uptake because Zoom's not the same. And I'm a trustee, and I've been for 4 years on Middleton Elderly Aid. So I've worked with them, a long time now, 4 years. And I've worked at Governor at Middleton St Mary's until recently. I've helped local people on campaigns such as trying to stop the park and ride, which we were unsuccessful, but we got our voices heard. We got a few amendments to the plans, which hopefully lessen the impact on local residents. I've previously campaigned to stop the omnibus pub becoming an HMO side of my son's school. So all that and more, and the local school kids, I helped them with when they were all sent to East Leeds last year. We campaigned to get some attention, and we managed to get the council to revisit where the kids go, and we got 60 kids extra into Coburn. And unfortunately, we still have children now without a school, and sat at home waiting for a place in a school, which I think is disgusting when they're due to start year 8 in September. But unfortunately, the Labour Council have just ignored us on that one, so I will have my dig there, because I think it's disgusting that allowing children not to have a school. Sorry, going off on one, but all that and more. I get involved whatever I can.
Okay.
And people often come and ask me to get involved with other stuff, and I will, and I do. So, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Can I just add a little bit on that question just for myself? When we talk about inclusion and diversity, can we also talk about disabilities, if you've done anything specifically with people with disabilities, just for my own self? Wayne, do you need to add anything now I've added that on?
In terms of that, I do that in my day job, working with people with mental health. A lot of them have long-term mental health illnesses, so I support them with that. So that's probably more side of stuff I've gone on, but I've also spoken to residents about their concerns. I'm trying to remember, there were a guy I'm helping at the minute with his housing, who is in a wheelchair and is trying to get a move, but he keeps getting offered high-rise flats, which is interesting because they're not really appropriate. So I've helped him by getting him some support through Engage Leeds, which are an housing charity. Well, actually a group of charities that work under one umbrella. So and I've helped a few other people with disabilities as well, which I seem to always refer to Engage Leeds, which is around housing usually. So yeah.
Thank you. Okay, Sharon, do you want to go next, and then Kaylee?
Yeah. If I can just come back to the school thing first.
Okay.
Oh, no, it's only because it's been mentioned.
Okay.
Leeds City Council didn't ignore the school problem. The government do not allow councils to build schools. They will directly fund schools, which must either be a free school or an academy, and they held the funding back. I just think it's important that we put the facts out there. So they have to be, and as you know, the temporary schools there and the new schools being built. And it's only late in being built because the government held that money back, because the council has no sway over that at all.
I think sorry, Wayne, I think just for this, if there's any rebuttals, if we could start to put them in the chat so that we don't run out of time and we don't lose any information that people want to know from you.
It's only a brief one actually, but
if you put it in,
sorry.
Thank you. No, it's okay. It's perfectly fine. It's all right. If you put in the chat, Sharon will get. Okay, Sharon. So the question. about, I've lost where I am now.
Work in the community.
Yeah, what have you done in the community? What campaigns do you support? What activities do you do and have been involved with, and community cohesion amongst different groups?
Okay, it kind of depends what time scale we're looking at, because historically I used to run benefit workshops, which obviously I've got an MA in social security law, which is a bit of a weird admission. So I used to do that. I used to also run a tertiary school for young people who were struggling with work. Latterly, the last 3 years, I haven't been as active. And the reason for that is my son took his own life. So obviously I then had a very difficult time. So I wasn't as active, and that's just fact. That's just how it is. But over the last 18 months, I've been doing lots of work up at the Arc, primarily because it's a free space. We've been running, there's a couple of people on here who've actually been on one of the courses, some well-being, mental health awareness courses. I also have done things with St. Cross Church and the Arc. So the faith groups, because they've got great spaces that let me use them for free. I also have started a homework club. We work with dysfunctional families. So families who are in crisis or are struggling, they come along. It's generally on a Wednesday afternoon, and we do, it's quite private, isn't it? Because they don't want it broadcasting that their children are going to be taken away because of the social issues they've got. So we do lots of work with them. I've been writing some funding bids currently, so that work can be extended and they can actually employ somebody to do that properly. I am the treasurer of Leeds Disability Association Group, so we look at the whole round, and disability is disability, isn't it? So whatever that disability is, and we try to raise awareness around hidden disabilities, because not everybody's in a wheelchair, or not everybody, you know, only has a limb missing or something. So we write strategy and lobby quite firmly for changes to be made. So that's the reason I haven't been. And around community cohesion, I just kind of want to clarify what that is, because I think I think it means different things to different people, when actually there is a distinct and clear meaning for what community cohesion is. And that's tackling inequality, and disability is certainly an area of inequality. It's about bringing all areas of the community together, regardless. And that would be regarding anything that falls within the Equality Act 2010 and the Amendment 2015. And I think there's a real problem. We still have a huge problem in this area, an area I've lived in all my life, and that's become apparent to me over the last few weeks. So that's an area that we need to address and work together, everybody, to overcome that.
Thank you, Sharon. Kaylee.
Hello. Right, so mine is what I've done in the community. I help run the Big Bike Fix that's supported and provided a lot of people through from June last year. Previous to that too, it was just a small little business thing we had going on, just a little charity from my garden, fixing up bikes and allocating them, putting them back into the community free of charge to help people to get to work, college, university, kids that want a bike to get to school. Partnering with that, we helped St. Cross Church with the Christmas toy appeal. We gave them and donated them around 40 bikes at Christmas, maybe a bit less, about 30-40 bikes at Christmas for children that were, and families that were struggling to provide for their children for Christmas presents. There's nothing worse than a child not getting a bike at Christmas when they've asked for one. That was quite heartwarming. I've helped with pastoral care at my local schools, helping allocate food parcels along with local community kicks such as Pay It Forward Leeds. I've also worked with the friends and relatives of Hunslet Cemetery, And on the equality and diversity, I actually have a disabled son, and he goes to a local school, he goes to Broomfield, and I'm in the middle of tallying up my bike fix project with them. I'm donating them a bike that's a trike as well, which I'm quite looking forward to that one, to be honest. I've done lots of casework and support in my local area, just being an ear for people when they've needed someone, such as, a bit like Wayne mentioned about the Engaged Leeds, I've been helping people out with housing issues and garden issues, and with that as well, such as people who needed bathrooms redoing for to help meet their needs, occupational therapy referral kind of thing. I've done an awful lot. I've been helping with this crack page. I'm admin on there. I've mentioned that already. Just working with my neighbours and things, people I've seen struggling through the lockdown. I helped with allocation of food parcels. I'm a bridge, really, me. I'm a bridge diverting people to local services that are available to them, because what I think is, I don't think a lot of people understand or know what is actually out there for them. And I like to pinpoint them into the right place. I'm just sort of a middleman. I'm helping everybody and just trying to help as much as I can. So I've got my finger in a lot of pies.
Okay, thank you, Kaylee. Thank you. So that's the end of the questions that we got sent in. So I think what we should do is, seeing as we forgot to let you introduce yourselves at the beginning, if you want to do a sign off, and just remind everybody what party you belong to. I think me and Linda's just got like questions on the brain, so I have to apologise for that. So yeah, if you want to go, Kaylee, Wayne, and then Sharon, and do like a sign off, and anything else you just want to add, I'll give you like a minute each.
Okay, so I'm Kaylee. I'm born and bred in South Leeds, and I know the area inside now, and I'm passionate about my area, and I want to bring my children up in a place that they're proud of and that I'm proud of. I'm new to politics, but I'm willing to learn. And because I'm passionate is what drove me into politics, because I saw things I wanted to change, and I wanted to be the voice of other people, and I want to make everybody heard. People that have something to say need to hear. I want to help people with their problems, and work with them and the Green Party to help find a resolution to any issues and problems that they have. I'm committed to social fairness and social justice and my environment, which is what drove me to the Green Party and helped me pick the party that I'm passionate of. I take care of my area with local litter picking, and I just generally taking care of my community as a whole, and I get the kids involved in that one, and they find that quite fun. And I'm set on reigniting that community spirit that I felt was lost. I will say I am very happy with how some people have pulled through this pandemic. I know it's affected a lot of people. There were a lot of unsung heroes around, people that have helped others, and I praise them. I really do. And anybody who's finding any struggles or any difficulties, please feel free to inbox me on Facebook. My number's there for anybody, and I'm here if anybody's got any questions.
Thank you, Kaylee. Wayne, do you want to do a sign off?
Yeah, so I represent the Social Democratic Party, which is a left-leaning economically party, but socially we're more right of centre. And we too fight for social justice, and I suspect all three parties actually are very similar in a lot of ways. But you know, I think we all want the same thing, but probably just different ways of getting there. So yeah, I'm a dad of two. I've lived in Middleton most of my life, apart from a brief 9-year spell in Belial. So I've literally only ever lived in the ward. I'm related to most people randomly. I always find out new relatives because my family's so big round here, which is interesting. And so yeah, I've always been somebody who's volunteered in the community. Even as a 16, 17-year-old student, I was volunteering at Ellen Road after school for primary school kids, helping them with English and math. So it's volunteering is something I've always done, and I've always been passionate about helping others. And I think that's key, really. I'm lucky that my wife Sarah supports me in all this. because it must do her head in. But she does, and the kids are supportive too. I've got 2 boys who are 5 and 9 year old, and it's never easy for them, but they know I'm passionate about changing where we live, and I want it to be better for them. And that's really my drive, is my kids. I want them to grow up here and want to stay here. I don't want them to have to move away like a lot of my friends from school did. Pretty much any of my friends that went to university have left the area, and I just think those people we want to keep, and I don't see why we should let them feel like they need to leave. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, really.
Thank you, Wayne. Okay, Sharon.
Well, obviously, I'm Sharon. Sharon Burke. I was born in Hunslet, and my mum and dad moved to Belial when I was 2, which was 57 years ago. So there's a clue about my age. I've seen many changes in this area, and there's a couple of things, because one thing I'm incredibly guilty of, really, is forgetting to shout about achievements, because sometimes all things we're doing because it just is the norm, isn't it? It's what you do. So delivered dozens and dozens and dozens of food parcels during the pandemic, after having my fingers bleeding, dipping into boxes, to even this morning there were 17 went out, and they're people who are unable to access food banks through the normal channel because they couldn't get a referral. So we've plugged that real gap, done lots of one-to-one counselling and support. And again, why on earth would I shout about that? Because it's very private. For me, the role, and it's almost, being a counsellor, as I say, is about being an advocate. But for me, it's a pathway so that we can strengthen the community so that they actually use that advocacy. And one of the things I want to do is try and work with people so that they can engage with their civic responsibility. And I'll finish with this. If you look at one of the things we've talked about now, it was put out to consultation throughout the whole of Leeds, and that was that spend. Only 2,500 people responded. That's about 1%, isn't it? Only 2,500 people responded. And I do think sometimes decisions are made that people don't understand or don't agree with. And I'm one of those people. I don't agree with everything blindly. But the key is to work with people, give them the skills and the knowledge that we can engage and have that civic responsibility. So even if that's done as a collective, so we get groups together and we put a concerted response in 2 consultations so that people can then have a say and we can start to affect some real change. Thank you for hosting tonight, Christine and Linda, and giving us the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you all for coming, and Jeremy for birthing the idea.
Sorry, Jeremy, many apologies.
Very well done, everybody involved.
Yeah, so thank you. So I'll just say thank you for coming. Thank you all for being respectful and answering really good questions. I just want to remind you all that you can sponsor South Leeds Life, or if you're a business, you can buy a subscription. We are on Facebook, so please go and like the page, and you are all free to go now.
Steve, may I just say one more thing? Sorry. Kaylee, I don't have any details for you. So Wayne, Kaylee, if you could send me your email addresses around the training, and I'll send you some promotional stuff, probably Friday or Saturday, and feel free to spread it. And I will be doing some induction sessions and going on. But if you could send me, and that would be
absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you. Perfect. All right. Thank you, everybody. So if you go to the bottom of your screens and find the leave button and let yourselves out, we're going to stop recording now. Bye-bye.